I had one last question for you. So as you've got so much experience as a soloist, as a chamber music player, as a conductor, you still teach, I think, don't you?
You know, I stopped actually teaching the violin at Yale only about 2 or 3 years ago, which was very sad for me because I actually love teaching. But it had come to the point where I could not feel that I was really able to look after an individual student. I mean, I'd had people who taught when I was away, but it just came to the point where I felt it was not quite fair. But I've maintained my relationship with Yale University, which has a wonderful school of music, which is now fully funded. Somebody gave $300 million. It's yeah, it is kind of funny, isn't it? But I know I'm going to get all these calls tomorrow offering us $300 million for the Toronto Symphony. I know, but here, this is the USA, right? $300 million came from an anonymous donor to the Yale School of Music. 2 weeks later, Princeton received a donation of $301 million to their art school, arts department. That's don't you love? Anyway, so it's fully funded now. It's full scholarship. So the school is actually phenomenal. And I only conduct there, but I'm there several times a year. I do 2 concerts with the orchestra, and I give some master classes. And at the beginning of the year, I put the orchestra together for the first time that they play together, because it's only a 2-year program. It's a master's program, so half the school is new every year, pretty much. And it's my job in September to put them together and take a Brahms symphony or whatever it is, and just say, okay, this is what we're going to be doing in orchestra this year, and try to get them immediately up to a very high level. And I love doing that. So I'm very passionate about teaching.
So given all this experience and having sort of conducted so many different groups, do you think that music critics actually know what they're talking about?
Only one.
You weren't supposed to say that.
You know, it's a great question, John. And he does a beautiful interview, doesn't he? You know.
I shouldn't have led you like that. No, it was serious. Serious. Serious.
Okay, I know you're probably serious. You know, it's like saying, do all conductors actually know what they're doing? I mean, it's totally dependent. There are quite a lot of charlatans out there, and you know that, and I know that. But you know, it's the thing that I find funny is that everyone relates the word critic with the word criticize. But actually, when you think about it, we're talking about criticism. When you write a criticism of something, it can be positive or negative, but it's a discussion about it, and it's an enlightenment of what happened. Tell us a little bit about it. And what I appreciate about John is that I think that you are a part of this surge of interest and enthusiasm for the orchestra, and it may well be that sometimes you don't love performances as much as others, and you may sometimes really not like performances, but you don't talk about it in a negative spirit ever. And I think that we're all interested in making sure that this art form is stimulating and gets to a broader and broader audience. And I think you're very much part of that energy, and I really appreciate that in what you do. So thank you.
We have time for questions. So if there's anything that you've been meaning to ask Peter, there's a microphone in the walkway in the middle. So if you want to line up, we'll take you one at a time.
It is now.
There we go.
I have a question about the relationship between the conductor and the concertmaster, because the TSO has been without a permanent concertmaster for several years. And does it make it more difficult for you to have a different sort of bum on that seat every few weeks?
You know, of course it's a different dynamic from having a regular concertmaster. We have actually an associate and 2 assistant concertmasters who are just wonderful people and wonderful musicians, and the orchestra has responded extremely well to this. Am I looking forward to the time that we find just that ideal next concertmaster, and I can start to develop a strong bond with that person, and they with the orchestra, and so on. Of course, absolutely. But it's a very good question. The orchestra has been extremely respectful of this process, and I think it's fair to say that they're keeping the level of their playing very, very high without having a permanent concertmaster, and I appreciate that very much. Oh, what happens between conductor and concert? Well, I mean, it's for me, actually, I'm a very collaborative type of conductor, so I expect everybody to behave as a concertmaster, frankly. I don't sort of think that there's a concertmaster who really cares about it and everybody else who, oh dear, yeah, better do something. I mean, and this is a terribly engaged orchestra. So sometimes a concertmaster might actually have to, like really stimulate things. Sometimes with a guest conductor, a concertmaster can be very important. If a guest conductor comes in and has a bit of an attitude, and the orchestra starts to get a bit feisty, and then the concertmaster might have to finesse a relationship a little bit sometimes. Concertmaster, of course, for the first violin section, and sometimes for the whole string section, will change some bowings. But any concertmaster can do that, and of course if I'm on the podium, I'm probably doing a little bit of that myself anyway. And the principal players of each section does that. So going back to what John was talking about, the concertmaster's role is also quite significant off the podium, actually, as an ambassador for the orchestra and a sort of diplomat. So yes, it's a very, very important role, and that's why I'm waiting till I'm absolute, because this concertmaster is likely to be with the orchestra for, way beyond me, and, could be there for 20, 30 years. So I want to get somebody who everybody truly admires. Oh, well, it's a long going. I won't bore you with the process. It's been going on for quite a while. Yeah, but yeah, we'll get there.
It's actually a similar question. What kind of quality are you looking for in the concertmaster?
Well, a wonderful musician, somebody whose playing stimulates and inspires all of the players in the orchestra, somebody who's a wonderful communicator, both from the chair and actually as a personality, somebody who's got extremely good judgment, and so that if situations can become awkward, that they really know how to handle it well. It has to be somebody very tactful. It's a very significant position for an orchestra. Yeah.
There's no school for concertmasters.
Actually, there is one in Cleveland. I mean, Bill Prussell, who's the concertmaster of the Cleveland Orchestra and used to be the first violinist of the Cleveland Quartet, it's kind of a class of concertmasters. He has 2 or 3 at a time. And he does try to teach them many aspects of it. And we've had one of his students who was a wonderful kid, wasn't quite there for us at that time, but so there is. But it's kind of the thing you're born with. Mainly, Anyway, we have some great people coming in the next few weeks, so I'm optimistic. Please.
Yes, I collect music, people by rare and unknown composers, people like Eugene Dalbert, Ignaz Bruhl, Hans Roth, for instance, Julius Röntgen. I'd like to know, even Chadwick, I'd like to know why these composers' music are really never heard in concert hall, and it's the most beautiful music.
Yeah.
Amy Beach, I'll just mention John Knowles Payne, Charles Tomlinson Griffith. I'd love to see.
Shall I tell you the truth? Shall I tell you the truth?
I think they're performed in Europe, but
they are performed in Europe. I mean, I'll tell you I'll answer it with the most truthful thing first. We would be bankrupt if we did it too often. I mean, I'm just being truthful. Last night we did a wonderful concert of music. Murray Schafer, premiere of a symphony. I mean, it was a decent crowd, but so significantly smaller. And we do try to discover new music. That's why I do festivals sometimes, because then I quietly disguise. Oh, we're great. We're going to a Slavic festival, and we're going to do the Lutoslavsky Cello Concerto. Oh, that's a popular piece. And the Krzysztof Majatka Astrophonia for viola and orchestra. So I try to to incorporate this music, you have to program very, very cleverly, because you're right, the Hans Rott Third Symphony is the big piece, right? Yeah. But you know, if you do that, you have to make sure that you do it on a night when you've got two pieces on the program that are going to absolutely guarantee you that it's not going to be an embarrassing failure at the box office.
Albert is beautiful too.
Yeah, I mean, there are many. I know what you're talking about, and there are many, and you know, we all have our list. There's a lot of composers, so you know, it's something that I do try to get to, but my first answer was the honest. That's why we can't do a season that looks like that. You know, it's the sad truth.
So somebody came along with that $303 million.
You know, that would be actually a really interesting thing for somebody. So, you know, there are people, I've talked to a couple of people who are interested in making a legacy gift for contemporary music, for commissions. But actually, some kind of a gift to say, okay, I want to give enough that 2 weeks of the season you can do programs that are just not going to be appealing at the box office necessarily, but great music. That would be a wonderful thing, and that's one of the, you know, when in the world of development, it's all about identifying what fascinates people. Mm-hmm. You can't just ask for, could you please be generous to us? Find out what interests them, because they can make a difference, but it's in some specific area. Yeah, please.
Hi. At the beginning of the interview, you talked about how you got into conducting, but I was reading this book called Playing Lesser by Jan Horvath, and I read this part where you had injuries. And I was wondering, you had such an amazing career as violinist, and that switch from violinist to conducting, I was wondering what kind of effect it had on you as a violinist, as an instrumentalist.
Well, the reason that I stopped playing the violin was that I had focal dystonia in my left hand, which actually doesn't really go away. And so it got to the point where I could not really control, no pain, in agony in here, but no pain in the hand. But I just couldn't control my fingers, and it was like they're in spasm all the time. So I realized somewhere in about 1994 that I was going to have to stop being on stage as a violinist, and I thought perhaps things might change in my hand, but I had this curiosity which the seed had been planted a little bit by Karajan and various other people, and so I was very interested in conducting, and fairly quickly it became clear to me that I would actually rather just work and try to become a conductor, and rather than see if I could possibly get my violin back to maybe 70% or something like that. And so there was a kind of an injury that led to it. By the way, talking of injuries, did anybody here not see that hockey hit yesterday? Okay, but I just want to tell you that boy Max Pacioretty is my nephew's oldest friend. They've played hockey together since they were 7. My nephew's name is Ben Smith. He's with the Blackhawks organization, and so he plays for Rockford. And a few of us went the other day, and he played against the Marlies and scored 2 goals, which was kind of embarrassing. But anyway, but Max, I just got an email from the father of Max. He came out of the hospital yesterday, no concussion. Maybe you read this, and 4 weeks to recover from his neck. It's incredible, absolute miracle. So, yeah. But anyway, next question, please.